What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And welcome to our show today. It is Tuesday, September 8th, 2020, the day after Labor Day, and we've got a lot to talk about. And I'm going to talk about news until I run out of news, at which point we'll be opening up the phone lines for your comments, questions, observations, and opinions. Mike is in our control room, keeping us out of trouble, twiddling the dials, and feeding the giant mutant hamster that runs all of this stuff. So let's get right on into it. First of all, a program note: tomorrow in our second hour, Richard Gage of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth is going to be our on-air guest talking about 9/11, which of course the anniversary is on Friday. And Thursday and Friday we'll be talking a lot about 9/11, one of the biggest hoaxes ever perpetrated on the American people. Well, it's been a rough day on the stock market. The Dow closed somewhere around 500, down 2.1%. And of course, the Democrats are celebrating Trump's economy's in trouble, Trump's economy's in trouble, yeehaw, yeehaw. And one has to wonder how much they're going to try and sabotage the economy in the next 8 weeks in order to try and win the election here. So anyway, Labor Day, unfortunately, was not very quiet for a lot of people. It was hit by a wave of gun violence. And an 8-year-old girl is among 51 people shot in Chicago, which I would like to remind everybody has some of the strictest gun control laws in the entire country. It's often held up as an example of where we all ought to be here. A 6-year-old got shot in New York at a Caribbean festival, and 3 are killed in 12 shootings in Baltimore. My goodness, people are getting crazy out there. Okay, getting to our domestic politics. Biden's 5-point July lead over Trump evaporates. The president is now ahead by 2 points. The state is still considered a toss-up according to the latest poll. Now, after taking a nosedive in the polls, Biden is spending $45 million on ads condemning the riots. He's finally getting around to saying this is all kind of a bad thing and it's all Trump's fault. Okay, a legal group has found thousands of double voters in the battleground states. Now, this is coming back from 2016 and 2018, but it does indicate there is a problem. There is a major problem with the way our elections are being run. A legal foundation has filed 2 court briefs that assert that double voting by the thousands happened in 2016 and 2018 in Georgia and North Carolina as the nation prepares for its first large-scale mail-in balloting to elect a president. Now, anti-universal mail ballot activists say the 2 states are a tip-off for what's going to happen on the November 3rd election. Liberal journalists demand that the Trump administration, which opposes mass mailed ballots in most states, provide evidence of fraud. The counterargument is that it is difficult to cite such examples when only a handful of states before 2020 adopted remote voting. Now, Joe Biden's former White House stenographer says the presidential candidate's cognitive functioning and speaking ability has deteriorated significantly in the last few years. Speaking to the Washington Free Beacon, Mike McCormick, who worked as a White House stenographer for 15 years and with Biden from 2011 to 2017, said the presidential candidate is not the same Joe Biden. He lost a step and doesn't seem to have the same mental acuity as he did 4 years ago, said McCormick. He doesn't have the energy. He doesn't have the pace of his speaking. He's a different guy. McCormick noted that Biden seems to get lost during interviews and has also lost his ability to smoothly go off script and connect naturally with his audience. Okay, and let's see if we can get the video back. We'll do that on the next break. All righty. Michigan asks for more time to count mail-in ballots amid late result fears. And amid fears of possible voter fraud this fall, the high volume of mailed ballots expected for the election has raised concern that the final result could be significantly delayed and mailed or absentee ballots should be verified and counted in addition to the votes in person. The bottom line is we're not going to have the full results in the counting of all of our ballots on election night. We already know that, according to Jocelyn Benson, the Democratic Michigan Secretary of State told NBC's Meet the Press on Sunday. She warned that we should be prepared for this to be closer to an election week as opposed to an election day. They're telegraphing how they're going to steal the election by coming up with all kinds of bogus mail-in ballots, and there's no way to validate them, no way to chase them down, find out who really did the vote. And complicating things is the story coming out of Glendale, where apparently a surveillance video captured a truck dumping bags of mail in a parking lot. Now, the post office says they're investigating, and other than that, they don't want to comment. But apparently there were these bags of packages and letters, and it sort of indicates that the U.S. Postal Service, it may not be the most reliable means of collecting and distributing the ballots. There's a problem over there. And if this election gets really messed up like Florida in 2000, we could wind up with the Supreme Court deciding who's going to be the next president. And that means Chief Justice John Roberts will decide the 2020 election. This is what Dick Morris is predicting. And he was on an interview Sunday, and he said the presidential election is going to drag out because of mail-in voting and end up being decided by Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Roberts. Okay, the Michigan GOP headquarters has been vandalized with profanity-laced anti-cop hate messages. Okay. Now, the Democrats are now using Pentagon-funded artificial intelligence to combat online efforts by Trump supporters to promote Donald Trump. They're basically using this software, which originally developed to track terrorists. They're tracking supporters of Donald Trump in order to find ways to counter them, to make sure that they can get their shills to leap onto this person or that person and shout them down. Now, John Bolton, former national security advisor and no friend of President Trump, forcefully denied allegations made by anonymous sources in a hit piece published by The Atlantic next week. He says the claims that Trump disparaged fallen soldiers are simply false. Central to the claim of the column are accusations from 4 anonymous sources that Trump had thoroughly disparaged America's fallen soldiers as suckers and losers. Since publication, many on-the-record sources have denied the allegations. And here's a story that was breaking just before we went to air. The Atlantic editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, confessed that the central claim in his publication's reprehensible hit piece on the president could very well be false. So the Atlantic column starts off with the claim that the president did not want to visit the Ain Marne American Cemetery near Paris in 2018 because his hair would become disheveled in the rain, and they did not believe it important to honor American dead. That's the lead to the piece and sets up every other argument throughout, that Trump despises the military and veterans and referred to them as suckers and losers. Goldberg admits that his 4 off-the-record anonymous sources may not have been correct and that the visit was indeed called off solely to the weather. Now, we need to understand that the Atlantic used the word confirmed by simply saying this anonymous source agreed with this anonymous source. And one of the most humiliating journalism debacles of the Trump era played out on December 8th, first on CNN and then on MSNBC. The spectacle kicked off on that Friday morning at 11 a.m. when CNN, deploying its most melodramatic music and graphics designed to convey that a real bombshell was about to be dropped, announced that the usual anonymous sources had provided the network with a smoking gun proving the Trump-Russia conspiracy once and for all. During the 2016 campaign, Donald Trump Jr. had received a September 4th email with a secret encryption key that gave him advanced access to WikiLeaks servers containing the DNC emails, which the group would subsequently release to the public 10 days later. Cable news and online media spontaneously combusted, as is their wont, in shock, hysteria, and awe over this proof that WikiLeaks and Trump were in cahoots. Now, we know that Seth Rich was actually the leaker. We know that for one reason, because the leak stopped as soon as Seth Rich was murdered. Female protesters wearing curlers in their hair gather outside Pelosi's San Francisco home, hang hair dryers in his tree as they mock the House Speaker's maskless visit to a closed salon. And she sparked outrage by visiting a San Francisco salon that was shuttered due to coronavirus. Now, Mitt Romney took a dig at Pelosi. He got his hair cut by his wife at home ahead of his return to the Senate and said, "This is better than Nancy's salon." Okay, article coming out of Russia Today. Most Americans believe the U.S. government is corrupt and unaccountable to the people, according to the latest polls. Strikingly, both Democrats and Republicans share this opinion. 73% of Americans say that elected officials do not face serious consequences for misconduct, according to a new Pew Research Center poll. A closer look reveals that a mere 21% of those leaning Democrat and 32% of Republicans believe there is some basic justice for delinquent politicians. This is not the only issue where the U.S. and liberals almost reach a consensus. 70% of U.S. citizens don't think the government is open and transparent, while 60% of both Republicans and Democrats believe that judges aren't free from the influence of parties and politicians. Okay, in one of his recent campaign speeches, President Trump calls out the military-industrial complex, saying they want to do nothing but fight endless wars to make money, which would sound like music to our ears, those of us tired of paying for the military, except that Trump gave the military more than they wanted this last year. Okay, Trump gives the green light for an investigation into the Postmaster General Louis DeJoy after he was accused of pressuring employees to donate to Republican candidates. Apparently, pardon me, he pressured them to donate to Republican candidates he supported and then reimbursed them with large bonuses. This is a crime, and he may lose his job over that. Frankly, I think he should. Turning to our local protests, and boy, there are a lot of them. The Sacramento District Attorney is saying that an attack on an office building was planned by domestic terrorist anarchists Antifa. It's nice that it's starting to apply that label to them. Sacramento County District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert stated the attack on her office building was planned and led by the radical leftist group Antifa's local chapter in the city. Now, naked Black Lives Matter demonstrators wear spit hoods as they sit in front of the Rochester City building in protest over Daniel Prude's death at the hands of cops as the mayor promises police reforms. Over in Ohio, the sheriff called out the rioters saying, if you shoot at the police, I want to make no mistake about it, we will shoot back. Things are getting more and more tense. Pro-life demonstrators painted the street outside a Planned Parenthood facility with the phrase Black Preborn Lives Matter in downtown Baltimore. Now, it's very comforting to know that some BLM protesters do not see eye to eye with abortion laws. However, it is not just black babies that are important. Okay. Also in Rochester, Black Lives Matter mob storms Rochester McDonald's blaring their bullhorns. Then they shove and threaten the store manager, who happens to be black. Meanwhile, U-Haul trucks were set ablaze by protesters, and those U-Haul trucks were owned by a black man. And he'd put a sign, black-owned business, outside. He's understandably upset. In fact, they used the word livid to describe him. But apparently it appears Mr. Barksdale, hang on a second, Jesse Barksdale, placed a proud to be black-owned sign outside the business, which was ignored by rioters protesting racial injustice. Remember, last week we talked about this gas station that was black-owned that got trashed by the protesters. No wonder their brand is becoming toxic when they're going after their own people here. All right, over in Oregon, armed Trump supporters clash with Black Lives Matter protesters. Multiple people arrested as fights break out between demonstrators after a huge MAGA vehicle rally drove from the Portland suburbs to Salem. Now, Ilhan Omar is out there saying that the riots are the result. It's an uprising over centuries of racial neglect and oppression. And she described the more than 3 months of riots as uprising over centuries of racial neglect and oppression. Yes, there is so much racial oppression and neglect in America. A Muslim immigrant from Somalia can be elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in a state called Minnesota. All right. Black activist, bold and brave and bold black activist, YouTuber, marched through a busy street in the outskirts of San Francisco chanting "White Lives Matter" and demanded that white people should not be made to feel guilty about the color of their skin. I agree with that one. Ironically, police were called by angry liberals. Now, the YouTuber, who goes by the name Savage Audits, filmed himself and people's reactions to his comments and statements while also hilariously calling people who were upset by his stance libtards. All right, American Airlines faces a boycott. They decide to allow their cabin crew to wear Black Lives Matter pins on the uniform. This triggered a major backlash among passengers and other American airline employees. And they claim the move is anti-cop, racist, and anti-American. So they may be looking at a boycott there. And getting back to the cancel culture, Charles Darwin is going to get canceled. The Natural History Museum will review the offensive exhibitions about the father of evolution because HMS Beagle's Galapagos voyage was colonialist. Okay. Talking about COVID, and there's a lot out there, health officials worry the lost summer of 2020 will spark a surge in COVID-19 cases as crowds across the country flout social distancing rules over Labor Day weekend. Corona deaths over the weekend are the lowest since the 4th of July, and it appears that COVID-19 is fizzling out across the U.S. just like other countries. The Worldometer website recorded only 286 deaths yesterday due to COVID-19. This is the lowest number recorded since the 4th of July weekend. On July 5th, there were 268 deaths recorded, and on that 4th of July, there were 270 deaths recorded. On June 21st, there were 271 deaths recorded, and before that, the lowest number of deaths recorded was 2020. It is clear that COVID-19 is fizzling out across America and around the world. Now, China's Sinovac coronavirus vaccine candidate was given to 90% of the company's employees and their families, and it safely triggered antibodies. But they're saying elderly people have a weaker immune response. This according to the early trial data. President Xi Jinping has touted China's role in battling the coronavirus pandemic at a triumphant award ceremony for medical professionals decorated with bugle calls and applause. He's described their fight against COVID-19 as open and transparent. Now, Johnson & Johnson reveals its coronavirus shot prevents severe illness in hamsters, as the drug giant says human trials will start this month. And apparently they have this vaccine candidate called 8026-SPP and they tested it on Syrian golden hamsters. Vaccinated hamsters lost less weight and had less virus in their lungs and other organs than unvaccinated hamsters. Doesn't sound like it's 100% effective. Merck will start human trials for its coronavirus vaccines fairly soon, according to the CEO. But they lag months behind competitors who aim to deliver shots by October. Now, here's where it gets interesting. A study by researchers at UCLA and Stanford finds the coronavirus is 10 times less fatal than first thought. You just think about that. And the reason I bring that up, this article came out of Your Destination Now. There's another article that dovetails with this, and this came out of Russia Today. And it details where there was a mistake made in the original calculations for lethality. It was a fatal math mistake, and it resulted in a fatality calculation that was 10 times higher than it should have been, because they confused the case fatality rate with the infection fatality rate. And the case fatality rate is always going to be far higher than the infection fatality rate. With influenza, the case fatality rate is about 10 times as high as the infection fatality rate. COVID seems to be the same. They mixed up the figures, and that's why Stanford and UCLA came up with this number saying it's really not as fatal, it's not as lethal as everyone said. Now, UCLA and Stanford have also found that for the average 50 to 64-year-old, chances of dying from COVID-19 are 1 in 19.1 million. It's not the slate wiper that we were all told it was going to be. According to the CDC, more people are dying by suicide than by COVID-19. Now, Gilead, who's the maker of Remdesivir, is behind the war on hydroxychloroquine. They control COVID response panel and stand to make tens of billions of dollars. And basically, we'll take a break for commercials. I'm going to restart the camera, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our show here, and a friendly reminder that the Republic Broadcasting Network is in the middle of a perpetual fundraiser. We need your help to keep doing what we're doing. We need your help to get better, more reliable systems, as those of you on YouTube will now understand after the last segment of the show. And so if you would care to help out, the postal address to send a check, Money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you. Okay, we're talking about Gilead Pharmaceuticals, the maker of Remdesivir, and they basically want to make sure that doctors use their 5-day coronavirus treatment that costs $3,000 per patient. In comparison, a generic dose of hydroxychloroquine costs anywhere between $10 and $20. So there's billions of dollars on the line here based on which medication we're convinced that we need to have here. Now, studies on Gilead's Remdesivir are abysmal, showing adverse events for 66% of the recipients. The adverse events were so horrific for some of the patients that 18 of them had to be taken off the drug. I noticed on the news today they were talking about how all these vaccine makers are signing a safety pledge. They got to know that there's a problem out there, and there are problems out there. Okay, Dr. Fauci was so confident in his shot safety that he waived ferret and primate studies. Moderna suspiciously reported no health data from its mouse studies. That appears to have been a mistake. 20% of human test subjects severely injured from the Gates-Fauci coronavirus vaccine by Moderna. Moderna did not release its clinical trial study or raw data, but its press release, which was freighted with inconsistencies, acknowledged that 3 volunteers developed grade 3 systemic events defined by the FDA as preventing daily activity and requiring medical intervention. 3 of the 15 test subjects in the high-dose cohort suffered a serious adverse effect within 43 days of receiving Moderna's jab. It can take a while for these adverse vaccine events to actually show up here. Now, there's a new report out from the World Health Organization, a branch of the United Nations, confirms everything that's been said about the deadly nature of Bill Gates' vaccination programs in the third world. Entitled Circulating Vaccine-Derived Poliovirus Type 2 Sudan, the report outlines how polio vaccines from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation are spreading more polio throughout Africa. Not only that, but these relief jabs are killing young black lives in places like Chad and Sudan, where outbreaks of the vaccine-induced disease are spreading like wildfire. Amazingly, the World Health Organization openly admits that the strain of polio virus currently circulating, known as CVD-PV2, is vaccine-derived. This clearly indicates it's being spread by the very same vaccines that Bill Gates claims are helping to save lives and eradicate polio. Okay. Apparently, according to this article in Scoopy Web, singing happy birthday could spread COVID-19 because the enunciation of the B's and P's releases large droplets which may be infectious, according to a study. Story coming out of Investment Watch blog. Poll shows most Americans support shutting down the economy again to stop the coronavirus. Well, not if it's not as the monster that everybody thinks it is. Everybody's been told it is. 64% of New York City restaurants warn they will be forced to permanently close this year as Cuomo again fails to offer up indoor dining plan for the city, despite infection rate remaining below 1% after 31 days. Okay. Another story involving a beauty salon. Shin Kier Aesthetics Hair and Beauty in Bootle, Merseyside, posted a notice on his Facebook page, which has since been deleted, denying that coronavirus exists and saying they don't need to wear masks. Okay, the poster, which was also stuck to the salon window with masking tape, had the bullet point saying, COVID-free salon, no masks, we take cash, COVID talk is banned, you can't catch which doesn't exist. Okay. The first of England's pubs are ordered back into lockdown. Bars in Bolton must shut to the public as Boris prepares to slash indoor gatherings to under 30 people. In rest of the country, as after COVID cases hit 3,000 for the second day in a row. Story coming out of Your Destination Now. Epidemics lead to a rise in racism, conspiracy theories, and civil unrest, reveals study of past outbreaks from the Black Death to the Spanish flu. Donald Trump is out there bragging that he's getting high marks on his coronavirus response as the U.S. nears 200,000 COVID deaths. Now, Biden is backing off from his threat to make wearing a mask a national priority, saying that a national mask mandate is probably unconstitutional. Okay. All right. We're going to take another break for commercials. We're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines, 800-313-9443, 800-313-9443. So call on in and share what you want to share with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go to the phones now to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hello, Mike. Got a few things I wanted to discuss, but first, there was an article. I don't know if you saw it. It was entitled "The Coming Coup" from Zero Hedge.
Yes.
And in the article, it mentioned how Obama basically filled the military, at least the upper echelon, with I don't know how you would explain it. People from his people that would more likely agree with him, cut from the same cloth as him, and should there be a close election, that the military would side with the Democrats. I don't know how much credibility you see in that report.
The military, at least in terms of the Joint Chiefs, have said they will not get involved. Of course, that may not mean much of anything if it actually comes to pass.
Right. Mike, have you seen that report about the bikers rally in South Dakota?
Yes.
And the corporate media somehow pulled this number out of their, $12 billion, and that these bikers have become super spreaders.
Well, they're trying to recover from the fact that they predicted that all these bikers were going to come down with COVID, and so far they haven't. They only had a few cases.
Right, but why are they saying $12 billion? I mean, is this just another attempt to demonize and vilify white males? That's what it seems like.
I think it's an attempt to scare people about COVID-19 in terms of its ultimate financial costs. Certainly, it's an attempt to demonize the bikers at Sturgis.
And then why is the Trump White House, why is the Trump Department of Homeland Security labeling white supremacists as the country's biggest threat? Why is Trump going along with that?
I don't know. It concerns me.
I've never met a white supremacist, so I don't know what they're talking about.
I've never met one either, to be very honest.
So I hope Trump, I don't know if this was Chad Wolf's doing or Trump went along with this, but this has really got to stop. The biggest threat to this country is the communist threat, the Bolsheviks that are out in the street.
Yes.
It's not the white supremacist threat. Oh, Mike, and also finally on the vaccines, I would really urge the listeners to go to Vernon Coleman's website, Vernon Coleman. He's on the Richie Allen Show now every Monday. He's got a great webpage. Actually, he moved it to brand YouTube, I believe. He was on YouTube, but he's a very knowledgeable doctor. He's written numerous books, and he's an expert on vaccines. He's challenged Matt Hancock and the other whores in the British establishment to debate the issue of vaccines, but of course they've never agreed to it. So, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and last thing, Mike. Last thing. A few years ago, after Trump won in 2016, there was a lot of talk about the alternative media and how it was going to basically take more viewers from the corporate media, and the corporate media was going to be left in the dust. I never believed it, and I was proven right, because 3 years ago, I was in a call with you. I called this country, the system here, a perfect dictatorship, and it still is a perfect dictatorship. When you have a corporate media to such an extent that they can deny people a cheap and effective cure to whatever is out there, and instead offer something that's costly, that you just discussed, costly, ineffective, and dangerous, that just tells me how powerful the corporate media still is and how stupid the majority of people in this country still are.
Well, if they're still watching the corporate media, then yes, I would tend to agree with you. But being a free person,
I'm not. But
being a free person takes work. No, it takes work. You have to go on out and find out what's going on so you can make good choices. If you sit there and just let somebody tell you what to think, then you're going to think what they want you to think.
But even the poll you mentioned, you said, I don't know if that poll is accurate or not, a majority of Americans support another lockdown. The majority of Americans are idiots. They don't deserve freedom. That's how stupid they are.
Well, we have to educate them.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job of it, Mike. Thank you so much for all your work.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch over to John in Pennsylvania. Hello, John. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi. About 10 years ago in Binghamton, New York, where I live across the border, we had one of these mass shootings. And as a result, the local talk show host interviewed a doctor who had written a book called Prozac-Panacea or Pandora. And she explained that when somebody's on a psychotropic drug like Prozac or Ritalin, and the physician wants to take them off that prescription, he has to take a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. It can take almost a year. If they go cold turkey, they become a maniac. And she explained there's like 500 different kinds of maniacs, but of course the ones we're most concerned with would be the pyromaniac and the homicidal maniac. But in any case, the point is that those drugs are coming from China. We haven't received a shipment since March. So what happens when a man goes into the store and to renew his prescription and the shelves are empty? Oh, he's off his meds cold turkey. On the other hand, suppose he had a health care plan and he would go into the pharmacy and have a $10 copay, and now he's no longer employed, so he no longer has the $10 copay, and what used to cost $10 is now $130. He doesn't have it. He goes cold turkey. There are 25 million people that have been prescribed these psychotropic drugs, which now may not have them, which would explain all this craziness. And it's not just the people in the street. It's also the politicians, it's the police. You know, why would somebody shoot somebody in the back 7 times? Well, he's off his meds. And all of a sudden, everything comes into light. It makes sense. All this crazy stuff. Some guy throws his girlfriend's dog off the balcony. Or, you know, some woman drowns her babies. It's because they're off their meds. And I haven't heard anybody bring...
That's a good point.
I haven't heard anybody bring this up. And I was thinking, if that doctor's...
Yeah, we've talked before about, antidepressants and other psychotropic medications, and we've referred people to ssristories. It's either com or org. And when you come off these medications cold turkey, they can cause all kinds of problems.
Well, I was just thinking she might make a good guest if she's still alive. 10 years ago, I went to Barnes & Noble to get her book, and they told me it was out of print for 10 years. So that's like 20 years ago. They knew this was a problem, and they still are prescribing it. And the sad part is that the doctors are getting a kickback from the pharmaceutical manufacturer. I don't know how much time I have, but I could tell you a story if you're interested.
Well, yeah, real quick.
Okay, well, I had all these symptoms of Lyme disease. If there's 20 symptoms, I had 18 of them. I go into my physician. She puts me through thousands of dollars worth of tests and comes back negative. And she said, well, you must be depressed. I said, I'm not depressed. I'm sick. And she said, no. So meanwhile, of course, the internet is probably the bane of doctors. I found some doctor that said if you take this antibiotic, doxycycline, for 6 months and you feel better, that means you're infected. That's the test. So I asked the doctor to give me this doxycycline. He says, oh, no, I can't see giving you a antibiotic if the test doesn't come back positive. You must be depressed, and we'll give you this psychotic drug, Wellbutrin.
Yes.
And I was so desperate, and I said, well, I'd rather have the antibiotic rather than be addicted to this thing for the rest of my life, because I don't know how long I'm going to keep this job. I was having trouble with the boss. I always do. But anyway, he said, well, why don't you take this first, and then if it don't work, I'll give you the antibiotic. So that was the deal. Well, she said, take a half a pill the first day, half a pill the second day, and the third day you take a full pill for the rest of your life. Well, it was a hard time breaking that pill in half, but I'm pretty creative, and I was able to snap it in half with a pair of pliers. And I take this pill, and all of a sudden my heart's racing, my blood is thumping, and I'm gasping for breath. and I'm still too tired to get out of the chair. Well, the second day I do it again, and now it's even worse. Well, then I read the label. It was a time-release pill. And she told me to crack a time-release pill in half and swallow it, which means I got 24 hours worth of dope in 20 minutes. It probably could have killed me. So I figured this doctor doesn't know anything. Well, meanwhile, I had a friend now, the Vietnam veteran, and I told him the story, and he had some doxycycline. He said, I got that, and he just handed me a bottle of it. I took one pill. It was like somebody flipped a light switch. I said, it's not supposed to work this good. The doctor said 6 months, and if you feel better, that means you were sick. It was like an immediate response. So you can say, okay, maybe it was psychosomatic, and because I believe it would work, if they gave me a sugar pill, it would work. But also, at the time, I had been treated for gout for 8 years.
Yes.
And the medicine they were giving me was tearing up my inside. Well, the gout went away. And so I go to the rheumatologist that I had been seeing. I said, look, I took this antibiotic and the gout went away. And he threw me out of his office. That's not good for business. He said, that's impossible. He said, gout's a systemic disease. You can't cure it with an antibiotic. I said, well, that means I didn't have gout. And he wasn't happy to hear that at all. Meanwhile, there's all these people moaning and groaning in his waiting room, suffering from all this arthritis-type disease, which could be cured with an antibiotic. Anyway, so that's what I had to say. I'm thinking that all this craziness with people, rioting and looting and stuff is because they're off their meds. And if that's
or
the
they're
case,
on their meds.
the stuff is supposed to calm you down.
Well, it doesn't always. It doesn't always. Again, if you go to ssristories.com, they have all these stories about people on antidepressants committing murders and committing suicide and just going totally wacko, and violence is definitely a part of it.
Okay, well, what she explained was that it affects the part of your brain that stops you from moving when you're asleep. And she had represented somebody down in Texas that chopped his best friend to death with a hatchet. And then tried to commit suicide with that same hatchet, plunked himself in the head, knocked himself unconscious, and he was found laying there in all his gore, literally caught red-handed. And they put him on trial, with a death penalty. Normally, the lawyer will not allow his defendant to take the stand, but in this case, he had nothing to lose, so he got on the stand, and he explained, it was like I was in a dream. I could see myself doing it, but I couldn't stop. I had no control. And of course, he got convicted anyway, but I don't think they executed him. But that's what she says it happens. It takes that part of your brain, and it puts you into this dream state. It's like you're on PCP or LSD or something along those lines. And that could be, again, what's going on with all this craziness. People burning and looting, and there was some guy in Manhattan that tried to rape a woman in broad daylight on a subway platform.
I saw the video.
Well, that's not normal behavior.
No, it isn't.
Normally, they would wait till they catch you in the corner someplace. Anyway, that's what I had to say. I haven't heard anybody link the lack of pharmaceuticals coming in from China to all this craziness that's going on. But if that doctor's still alive, she might make a good guest.
All right. Well, I'll see about trying to track her down.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for my call. Bye.
Yeah, I need to have more guests on the show here anyway. All right, we're going to switch over to Andy in Texas. Hello, Andy. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Well, hey, Mike, there's some dude from our history that said, when we got everybody believing lies are the truth, we've done our job. I think you know who that is, Mr.
Yes.
Hitler?
No, that was
okay. So
the former head of the CIA, I believe.
Joseph Goebbels. Well, it's been said before. Let's just put it that way. You heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going on right now. But anyway, I know you got some heads up people over there in England and whatnot, in Europe, period. They had a protest scheduled for September 26th, and then all of a sudden they find out that England's going to lock down on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
So for all you people out there that are listening from England, your protest is the COVID-19. So make sure you keep that in mind. If you didn't get the memo, it's all over the internet. I listen to a lot of British YouTubers and whatnot, David Yates being one of them. Want to confirm it. As of yesterday, that's what it was or whatnot. But having said that, we're living in a world that just went to hell in a handbasket on us, and now we have to do the best to navigate out of it. And thank God for RBN because, America's waking up, and I turn you guys on to a whole bunch of people. I just do what I can. So having said that, I just want to put that out. Yep.
Okay.
I just wanted to put that out to the English people out there. Your COVID-19 is your day, so make sure you get out there and protest. Have a good one, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey there, Mike. A couple of things. Before I get into, what I wanted to say about the virus again, is I do, we were talking about with Trump and that Goldberg there, that Goldberg character that wrote all that said
Yes.
that he made all the statements about the soldiers and all that. Well, I looked him up on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And this guy's a dirtbag, okay, from the word go. He's a neocon of the worst type, warmonger, and guess what? He's a dual citizen. It says it right on there. He's a citizen of the United States, citizen of Israel, and though he never served in the U.S. military, he served in the Israeli military as a prison guard. I guess they're, prison guard, corrections officer or whatever else is part of the military, But that's what he did. Okay, so this guy is not to be trusted. He's a liar, and now it's coming out that he's a liar. I think personally, I believe in journalism, and, obviously I believe in free speech and the right to, but to just about make up lies like that, I think he should be punished for that, okay? Shouldn't get away with it. Anyway, getting back to the COVID now, and again, it's funny talking about that he was a prison guard over there in Israel. I was talking to a friend of mine last night in Texas, where I used to work. I used to work with him as a correctional officer, a prison guard there, okay? And, like in a lot of law enforcement, a good portion of the officers look like they just consume too many donuts and hamburgers and McDonald's or whatever else, okay? And a lot of them have diabetes and other kind of, insulin-dependent diabetes and all, okay? So I said, they must be dropping like flies then, right? Nope. Everybody's okay. He himself is on medication and stuff, and he's got, his parents at home and all that, and he's got little kids, and nobody's got it, okay? So in other words, now probably if they were tested, they probably test positive. But
okay, Mark, stay on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsor. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Mark in North Carolina. And Mark, if you could just start up where you left off.
Yeah, like I said, my friend, I was talking about a friend yesterday in Texas. But
yes.
He's still a correctional officer in the same facility, I used to work in. And like I said, there's a lot of diabetic, insulin-dependent officers and inmates.
Yes.
Working there. A lot of them are way overweight, okay? A lot of them are older because a lot of what happened with the officers, a lot of the officers, took to, moved from other states back in around, when the first financial problem started in 2008, 2009. They moved from places like California, Michigan, New York, Ohio, places that were really hit hard. And they moved down there just to take a job. And a lot of them were, on the verge of retirement already in their old job. And they couldn't get it now because they were laid off. So they took jobs there at the prison there. And a lot of them, like I said, a lot of them overweight, just like in any law enforcement, what you see, some of the fatties running around there. And, but yet, very little to nothing. He said he doesn't know anybody that's got the virus. Now, I'm sure they tested positive some, but positive testing means nothing. I saw something while I was working out at the gym today. I was watching, they had they had both the Fox and the CNN tickers on.
Yes.
And they had this woman with a really serious face talking about 500 and something thousand children that suspected to have the COVID around the country. None of them are sick. Nonsense. You've got all kinds of viruses and bacteria in your system. Okay? That's what we're made up of. And they keep it up. They keep it up. There's an agenda there, Mike. They want to destroy this country. Not only this country, they want to destroy the whole world. They are here. They want to. I don't know exactly what they want to do, but they definitely want to rule us. They don't believe in freedom. and the mainstream media goes right along with him. They're part of the problem, including Fox, by the way, very much Fox. They're trying to push these vaccines too, which are poison. To be honest with you, if somebody had a gun to my head and said, "Would you rather take Russia's vaccine or ours?" With a gun to my head, I'd say, "Okay, I'll take the Russian vaccine," because at least big pharma is, you know, I don't even know whether it's even private or not, and they're a little bit more honest, I think, than our pharmaceutical companies. And I don't think they have a law like the 1986 law where big pharma can be sued for bad vaccines. That's, you know, Ronald Reagan. Our good friend Ronald Reagan signed that in the law with Fauci to side. So that's all a bunch of crap, Mike. All right, these people are in bed with the worst people possible, and then of course you get Gates, who should be locked up. What he did there, I watched Jason Burmis yesterday on YouTube about the reported about what happened in the Sudan there.
Yes,
it's a crime. It's not the first time it's happened with polio viruses. All pushed by Gates. This man belongs in prison. Personally, I'd even go further. Personally, I wouldn't mind him, you know, like the Nuremberg, some of the Nuremberg people who are you know, that were hung. That's what I think he deserves. He should be hung in public, on the internet and on TV. This man is disgusting. He is a criminal. And people,
okay,
and
well,
I don't know how he can get away with it, you know?
Mark,
I hear the music.
I've got to let you go.
All right.
Thank you for the phone call. We got to take a break for station identification. Back with hour number 2 after these few words. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we're going to go to Al in Canada. Hello, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
I can't agree with your last caller more about Bill Gates.
Yes.
That's what should happen. For all the misery he's caused everybody. And that's just on the computer side. All the other misery he's caused, you know, in Africa and India and that. I mean, that's unforgivable. So I was talking to a bunch of people about something you mentioned earlier about that RT article they had about something that Stanford had actually came out and said, and this was in May, about COVID-19, that it's 10 times less deadly than originally thought. Stanford came out with that in May, Mike, months ago. So obviously there is a concerted effort to keep us scared and locked up. And I think it all has to do with what's going on in your country and the elections.
Yes, I agree, especially about the elections. The Democrats want coronavirus to be seen as a monster, and then they can blame Trump for not doing enough to fix it. But if the real numbers came out about coronavirus lethality and how few patients there really are compared to other real pandemics, then, you know, Trump's going to get a real huge boost because it's going to be seen that he saved a lot of lives.
Yeah. Well, he's already said that, you know, by locking down and, you know, cutting off people coming in from Europe and China. I mean, he's already said this. He said this for months.
He said it today in Florida.
Yeah, there you go. I almost think he's afraid to even. I don't know if he's mentioned that 6%. I think he did in passing, like in Laura Ingraham. I think. I can't remember. I'd have to watch it again. It's been a couple of days. But. You know, I mean, there's only so much that he can do, right?
Yes.
People have to be willing to listen to what he says. And there are so many people that have been indoctrinated into thinking that the guy is just pure evil. It's so sad. A bunch of people, even up here, are saying the same thing. This will not go away until after the election. And, of course, you know, the Democrats plan on stealing the election through that mail-in ballot voting, you know, and then Donald Trump will be piling sandbags, as that diddler Bill Clinton said. So, you know, all that aside, I sent you an email on something I'm actually steaming right now, and it's non-GMO, pure organic heirloom corn, and it's in season right now. Mike, I'm going to tell you something. It's tender, and it's juicy, and it's full of flavor, and you cannot tell the next day or the day after or the day after that you've eaten corn. I hope you have something like that down around where you live.
Well, we have a lot of corn around here. I don't know how much of it is GMO or not.
Probably tough, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, this GMO corn, it was never really meant for human consumption. I remember this in the 80s. It was being pushed for ethanol.
Yes.
And, you know, they went, whoa, hey, you know what we can do? We can control the food supply if enough suckers are willing to buy into it. There goes that money machine again, Mike. It's all about the cash. It always comes down to the cash, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yep. Thank you for your time, Mike. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks an awful lot.
Have a good one.
Same to you. And we're going to switch over to Voice in the Dark. Hello, Voice. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Mike. I wanted to thank you for taking my call. I do appreciate your program. I didn't hear whether you had discussed this or not, but I wanted your take on the Minnesota Freedom Fund, the MFF, the one Kamala Harris was asking all her Twitter followers to donate to there a few months back.
Yeah. I hadn't heard anything about it recently.
Really? I guess you should have watched Tucker Carlson the other night. He did a big thing on it. Well, I guess a bunch of the Democratic cabinet, Democratic members of the whatever they are over there, whatever they call themselves these days, I guess a lot of the staff donated some money to it. There was like $75,000 given out to bail some guy out that had shot his AK-47 at the SWAT team back in May. And there was one lady arrested this summer for stabbing her friend to death. Some friend, huh? And yes. They bailed her out at $100,000. They paid over $300,000 to bail out a twice convicted rapist. So I just was kind of wondering if anybody had taken the time to realize, speaking of where the money goes, what these Democrats have been doing with their money. And, you know, what that really represents as the future of our country, should they get into office, and really take control. It has me a little worried, Mike, to be honest.
It definitely does. And, I mean, we're seeing a consistent thread through Democratic politics where they want there to be a certain amount of mayhem in the streets, which they can blame on Donald Trump, and also hold up as a threat that if we don't vote Biden in November, that more violence will be unleashed.
Yeah, I agree with you. So what do you think is the likelihood they're going to be able to actually hold up the election?
Well, we're already looking at states like Michigan saying it's going to be at least a week before they can tally all the votes, which is an entire week where they can play all sorts of fun and games with those mail-in ballots. I think we're going to have a contested election.
If I remember correctly, doesn't the electoral vote have to be turned in by about the middle of December, or maybe the third week of December or so?
You're talking about the Electoral College, yeah.
Yeah, the Electoral College. Now, if each state that has an electoral vote doesn't get it in by then, as far as I'm to understand, they're kind of persona non gratis. They're just passed out, for lack of a better term. They don't get their vote to count.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're in terra incognita here with this coming election, and we've got the Democrats openly talking about a coup d'état to remove Trump. Even if he wins the election and wins the vote, they're still talking about ways to get him out of office.
I agree with you on that. We're definitely in a whole new territory here. I'm glad to get your thoughts on it, Mike. And just as a shameless plug, the reason I call in as a voice in the dark is because that's the name of my YouTube channel. The last time I shamelessly plugged on your account, on your radio show, I've got to admit, I gained about 17 subscribers. And I really appreciate each and every one of them. A few of them have made some pretty intellectual comments on my channel, and I do appreciate each and every person who takes the time to look into that. I don't have any of the wherewithal to go through the news the way you do, and provide something on a daily basis, but I try to upload at least once a week, sometimes a little more. But, a lot of my information comes out of your websites and other websites like yours. So it's fair for me to take the time occasionally to call in and thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Well, and likewise. So in the meantime, until I call in again, I wish you and Claire the best. I hope you guys are really enjoying Santa Claus out there, even despite the storms lately. And until we speak next time, you be blessed, my friend. You have a great day.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the kind words, and thank you for the phone call. And as a matter of fact, today the weather is beautiful, and they're predicting sunny skies for the rest of the week. So it's not all storms out here. We're going to switch over to Mo in Florida. Hello, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. We got some great callers. That last guy that was upset, I can totally, I see it just happening with people that are waking up to what a scam and hoax this whole COVID-19 thing is. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Andrew Hoffman. He's an MIT doctor. He's a computer expert. He's been on a lot of shows, but his credentials are pretty good. And he goes into depth on this whole COVID-19 phony test, which it doesn't even. I don't know if you remember from Koch's postulates where they have to isolate the virus. They have to find an unhealthy animal, isolate that thing that's making it sick, put it in another animal, and then have that animal get sick, and then isolate it again. It's a 4-step process that he goes into, and I remember it from my high school biology even. And he was saying that even some doctors and surgeons have never heard of it, and they've never isolated this virus. They take this test, which brings up a bunch of junk and bacteria, whatever, and then they match it up with these tests that don't even. The tests are absolutely worthless.
Yes,
it's a proven fact. I mean, my question is this: you still got. I haven't worn a mask unless they make me wear one, and I had to go back on my car and put it on. But I still see people wearing masks. I see people just grumpy and like, what's going on here? And they're fed up. And in your opinion, what do you think is going to happen? Because it's coming out now. It's coming out now that this whole thing was a hoax and a scam. Worldwide, they shut the economy down. The CDC came out and said, this is on the Ron Paul Liberty Report today, he mentioned it, that the CDC, they leaked some information out on the tests.
Yes.
And also on the suicides are far greater than the few people that's really actually died from the flu, which
yes.
This thing is at worst the flu, and at best, maybe a little stronger than the regular flu. And the suicides are far outnumber the actual deaths. So I guess I know you're aware of all this. So what do you think is going to happen as the world wakes up on the internet and finds out they've been had? This thing was a hoax. Like your previous caller said, Bill Gates needs to, him and Dr. Fauci need to be Nuremberg trialed, and a lot more people too. These pharmaceutical companies. What do you think is going to happen as the world realizes this was a total scam? What do you think?
Well, I think coronavirus is going to go away after the election is over, because it ceased being a public health issue and it's become a political one. And I think once it goes away, people will just forget, unfortunately. I'd like to see a little more anger out there, but I think people are becoming numb to being lied to and hoaxed by the government and the corporate media and corporations.
And what if you lost your business and you lost a loved one because they committed suicide, or your life has been ruined? Don't you think there'll be some retaliation or some blowback with this?
There's probably going to be some blowback, but they'll just come up with another distraction.
Oh, God, I hate to say it, but I think you're right. Your previous caller said it. People are just stupid sheep. Wake up. Like you said, you told everything the government said, if their lips are moving, it's a lie. Every war, everything. Everything's a lie. And yet people still... I don't know if they just get a kick. I don't know, Mike. It's frustrating because, you take the red pill, you see what's going on. I mean, nobody denies that the Vietnam War was a lie. Nobody denies the Saddam Hussein massive, weapons. Nobody denies any of that. But they don't. What? Now you're going to believe this? Wake up, people! You just want to grab them and slap the what out of them. But
yes,
I like it. It's like. I feel like I'm in that way back in the Twilight Zone. Remember when they made that? When the Morlock were calling all the Eloi in, and they were like going in a trance.
Yes,
that's what I feel like. They were like with masks. They got their head down. They're dejected. They're like, it's like watching the Time Machine. It's sad, but it's kind of funny. I don't know. This is amazing. This. I can see if they did this in one state or something, but the world, they shut the world down. This economy's not going to bounce back. It'll bounce back, but they say half the restaurants will never reopen. I mean, this has ruined people's lives on a massive basis. How's Bill Gates going to explain this? I don't know. You can't underestimate I guess how people are like sheep, right?
Nope, you can't. Anyway, Mo, we're going to let you go there, Mo. Thank you for the phone call here, and we're actually going to play the clip about the Morlock masters and the Eloi servants.
By some awful quirk of fate, the Morlocks had become the masters and the Eloi their servants. The Morlocks maintained them and bred them like cattle.
Okay, let's see. We're going to go back to the phones to David in Boston. Hello, David. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, aloha, Michael.
Aloha.
I haven't been listening to the show too closely, but it seems like the theme is just how stupid people are and everything, So I just wanted to say that there's the slogan, of course, we're all familiar with, Black Lives Matter. But I would also like to remind people, and I'd like to remind Black Lives Matter and Antifa, that gray matter matters also. So before they bash out some innocent white person's brains with a skateboard or something worse, a hammer or an axe or something, I'd like Antifa and Black Lives Matter to just pause and consider the possibility that gray matter matters.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then
I certainly fall into that category myself. I'm a meritocratist at heart.
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah, very good, Michael. Michael, now, and then I'll get off after this, but I don't think people realize, as stupid as people are, most people I don't think realize how far up most people's head are up their butt. I was in the Army, and a common the sergeants would always be telling us to get our heads out of our butts and all that. But I feel the people are so stupid. Their heads are so far up their butts. Ask me how far up their butts their heads are.
How far up their butts are their heads?
Well, their butts are so far up their heads, Michael, that after they have a bowel movement, they wipe their lips.
Not sure I like that image.
Oh, I know, but it's a true metaphor, though. I think that I think it's very true. I mean, it's very demoralizing and very discouraging for all of us people that at least have a few brain cells to rub together. In other words, we almost have to wonder if we are going to go down in defeat with so many stupid people in our ranks and everything. They're patriotic and stuff, so many of them, but they're patriot. I'll give you an example of how their patriotism is misdirected, Michael, and then I really will get off this last point. I went to a Back the Blue rally. That means Back the Police, as you well know, I guess, Michael, in your audience. The Back the Blue rally. And during the rally, they said, Back the Blue, Back the Blue, Back the Blue. And I just said, yabba dabba doo, Back the Blue. Now, if you stop and think about how stupid that is, all our enemies are associated with the color of blue. The blue states, the blue cities, the blue governors, the blue mayors. I swear our nation will be occupied by United Nations foreign troops wearing blue helmets, and these zombies will still be saying, back the blue, back the blue. And then one other thing that's blue that people don't consider, another color that's blue, on that Israeli flag. That Star of David is blue, and those two stripes that represent the Nile and Euphrates River, they're also blue. So, you know, if you back I don't back the police. Generally speaking, I don't back the police. But if you do back the police, I respect that and everything. But at least if you start chanting, say you back the police. Say you back the police, or you support. Don't be back the blue, back the blue. Yeah, but you back the blue. You know, so our enemies have these. You know, these people mean right. They're conservative. Republican type people and everything, and yet the enemy has deceived them into this chant back the blue.
Okay, well, David,
and our adversaries,
Yeah, David, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with another phone call after these few words. Welcome back to our show. Here, we're going to go back to the phones to Dustin in New Jersey. Hello, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, Black Lives Matter. If you support them or support Blue Lives Matter, in the end, you're still going to have black and blue marks on your body, right? Because whoever you support or don't support, you're going to get beat down. Some way or another. Isn't that, what a sad, another example of a declining empire.
Yes.
Right? A nation divided. But Mike, I take issue with some of your listeners, and it hurts me to say, Al, that 6%, Dave from New York said this last week, that's not counting people who died of coronavirus, who got pneumonia, and it's comorbidities, guys. That 6% number is just, on people's death certificate, it said, died of COVID-19. But Mike, if I die of the flu, if I get pneumonia and die of the flu, do I die of the flu? But I got pneumonia from the flu, right? Like, that's how it works. Like, you don't just die from the flu. Like, what is the flu? You know what I mean? Like, what is coronavirus? What is the flu? You know, if you just generalize it and break it down, each part, there's comorbidities. All these things reduce your immune system. Now, if you get older, we got lesser immune systems. You know, I'm 50. You're 51, I believe, right? Maybe 49, sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And Claire's in her 30s, Mike, okay?
Yes. Yeah, that I can confirm.
But you know what I mean? Like, what is the flu? If you get the flu on your death certificate, only the flu, died of the flu, that doesn't really mean anything. You know, because dying of the flu is, you know, you die because your immune system was reduced and you die of other ailments. You know, comorbidities, guys. So don't look at this as only not, because I cringe. Well, only 9,200 people died. It's a hoax. You know, and then some of your listeners are saying, oh, they're stupid. People who believe this coronavirus is real is stupid. That's what some of your listeners are saying. Sorry, guys. I ain't stupid. I do a lot of research on this. And what about the 1,330 people that died in the last 24 hours in India from a cold or a flu in India at this moment in time? It's September 9th, 8th? What is it, the 9th today?
Yeah,
you know, I mean,
the 8th.
Like, I keep the numbers looking, like Brazil's almost 130,000. You know, India, Mike, would you ride on a New Delhi metro system? They opened it today. Would you get on a Indian metro train at this moment in time? I wouldn't.
You'd be surprised some of the things I've ridden on in my life.
Because, you know, in India, Mike, a lot of people pack on trains because it's a large population. And that's another thing. Like, what is India, what's their like, what do the people have there that we have? Like, you know, diabetes? Do they have, you know, high blood pressure or obesity? And high blood pressure is hypertension, right?
Yes.
Is that high? All right, so obesity and all these other comorbidities. So all you people saying, oh, stupid people believe this is nothing, I know the Stanford, Mike, I noticed there's different studies that come out, just like children aren't that infected, and another study comes out saying they are that infected. So, it seems like nobody knows too much what this thing is, But like I said, I look at the numbers from out of the country. Why are people in Brazil dying at this rate? Why are they dying at this rate in India? That's what I look at, guys. There's something going on here, and I can't say all the numbers are padded in India and Brazil. Do they have a financial gain to pad the numbers in India and Brazil? I don't know. Maybe not.
That's been the big problem all along, is nobody knows for sure about anything. I saw an article today where now they're determining that the COVID-19 test is showing a positive result for dead virus.
Yeah, well, you got false positives, false negatives, and
yes.
I was reading a lot of it has to do with like oversensitized tests. There's so many different tests out there. I had the nasal swab. There's the isn't there the blood test, the prick on the 15-minute test. So and then there's so many different tests. And you know what, Mike? The problem is that these tests were so rushed, and they weren't really designed for this particular. Because it's a novel coronavirus, novel meaning new. It's a new virus in the system of viruses, guys. It's not something that we've ever seen. But so I'm saying maybe these are a rushed tests. I don't know. But you know what, Mike? At the end of the day, people can call me stupid for believing this hoax. I don't know. Georgia Guidestones, I hear Bill Gates is evil, Fauci's evil, this or that. No, nothing backing that up, but just stuff that people are putting out because Andrew Kaufman or all these other people put out these articles, and you guys got to do some basic. Like I said, look at the numbers coming out of Europe. Like their numbers are higher now in terms of infections, but the death rate is lower because more younger people, because they have a better immune system, are not dying. That's why.
Okay, well,
that's
Dustin,
why the numbers.
Dustin, I need to put you on hold. Don't hang up.
Hi,
After the break, Mark wants to come on in the air and talk with you. We'll be right back.
Great. Okay. All right.
Welcome back to our show. Here we're talking with Dustin in New Jersey, and we're going to add Mark in North Carolina to the discussion. And guys, remember the rules. Be polite. Be respectful. One at a time. Mark, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Okay.
Mark,
so what do you have for Dustin?
Dustin, my problem with you is not that you're stupid. You're not stupid. You're irresponsible. People like you are pushing this thing, and you're destroying this country, and you are actually, people are dying from this. They're dying from other causes. You're destroying the education system. You're bringing this country down, okay? This is not a novel virus.
How am I bringing it down?
This is some kind of because look at you, locking the country down. People running around with stupid masks. Well,
I'm not locked down. I'm in New Jersey. I'm not locked down.
No, you think it should be though.
It's the same thing.
No, did I? I never said no. I do believe in selective lockdowns. Now, if there's an area like they did in Australia, Victoria, I think there's selective lockdowns where you need to lock down an area to keep it from spreading. There's nothing wrong with that. They did that in China. They did that in Australia. But I don't think they should lock.
In other words, you're a authoritarian. Okay, you don't believe in real freedom. You're scared. You're running scared of something that's very, very mild at best, at worst. Okay, if it even exists at all, it probably doesn't.
Is it mild in India? And in Brazil?
I have no idea what's going on in India. It's probably being a lot of this stuff. The hospitals are, playing the games there also, just like they are here in this country. Okay,
but you're making guesses, Mark.
Okay, Dustin, please don't cut Mark off. We're going to give you a turn here in a second. Okay.
Sorry about that. So that's a delay. That's the problem.
This stuff is being pushed by globalists around the world. Okay. They want to lock down the world. They hate freedom, and eventually they want to push their robots on us. This is what this whole thing comes down to, Dustin. You're playing right into their hands. There is nothing that serious about the coronavirus. Most of the deaths you had there in your horrendous state there of New Jersey and New York and these other northeastern states were on purpose by governors like Cuomo and Murphy murdering these nursing home patients there who absolutely do have very
low immune systems. Okay, I told you. I just called before. I told Mike about the people we used to work with at the prison. A lot of these are older. A lot of them have diabetes, insulin-dependent diabetes. A lot of them are fat. Okay, nobody's coming down with this thing. All right, nobody. So,
maybe they didn't get it.
Maybe the inmates or officers.
Okay, let's give Dustin a turn now. Dustin, how do you respond to this?
Maybe they didn't get it. You know, I believe when you're in the prison or you're a police officer, don't they do temperature checks? Right?
That doesn't do you any good. It's temperature check. I mean, you could get, if this thing is so common, you could easily, they say there are all kinds of different symptoms. They say if you have a runny nose, you could have the COVID. If you got if you have a stomach ache, they say you could have the COVID. They're trying to do anything they can to scare you. Look at the 500. Again, they say just today 500 and something thousand kids. Kids don't get it. Okay, they do not get this thing. They don't get sick from it. All right, they don't pass it around either. Okay, no way, Dustin. All you want to do is scare people. That's all you're trying to do because you're scared. All right. You hide under your bed, under your swimming mask, or whatever else you're wearing.
Gotta be polite. Gotta be respectful. Okay. All right. Mark, thank you very much for the phone call. Dustin, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go and calm down, take a Valium, walk around, get some air here, and we're going to switch over to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind?
Good day to you, Michael. That was like a cat fight. I know what you call that. Whatever. Listen, and by the way, Mike, just so Dustin knows, we did have the Hong Kong flu in '68, Dustin. I want to ask tomorrow you to call in and explain how come they didn't shut the government down back then, how come nobody was wearing masks, and how come there wasn't all these quarantines and all these ventilators. They weren't talking about that in 1968. And over 600,000 Americans died then, Dustin. And let's not kid ourselves, Dustin. November 4th, the whole coronavirus is going to be over with. Who's kidding who here, Dustin? November 4th, the coronavirus will be gone. It'll be in ash bins of history, just like the '68 Hong Kong flu and the 1918 Spanish flu. Okay? People died, but yes, you know what? People still survived. The flag's still flying. So, yeah, Mike, here's what I really called your show about. And this has really got me perturbed, and I'm sure it's going to perturb you. And by the way, Mike, you know what BLM's? They got a new BLM. You know what it means? They got a new BLM out now. Blower Lives Matter. Hair blowers.
Yeah.
For blowing hair.
For Pelosi.
People.
Yep.
They're with Pelosi. Yeah. So blowers' lives matter too in the beauty salons. I guess I should say beauty lives matter. I don't know what you want. Anyway, I thought I just made that up. But anyway, Mike, here's what I really want to talk about. I've got to get this off my chest, and I want to hear what you got to say. I listened to this filthy Cardi B on one of these talk shows today, and that broad is filthy. She spews out filthy music. These kids are listening to her. No other, I don't think any other artist, I don't think even Madonna and these white artists could ever get away with this. Cardi B gets away with. Then she's calling Candace Owen a race traitor, Uncle Tom, and every filthy name. And then she's calling Candace Owens a traitor because she's married to a white guy. But here you got Kamala Harris married to a white Jew. Okay, you got all these Democrats married to interracial marriage like crazy, but this Cardi B is going to call out Candace Owens for being an Uncle Tom because she's married to a white guy? What's going on with that, Mike? You understand what I'm saying?
Value to build her audience. That's all it is. It's a PR stunt.
Exactly, and these producers in Schmuck York and all that, they promote this filthy Cardi B like she's like some kind of princess of pop or something, a rap. She's a filthy scumbag promoting hate against the president, against white people in particular, and she's getting away with it. And a white woman would never be able to do that and say that about the blacks. Mike, I'm really getting fed up with these blacks complaining about slavery. That happened 200 damn years ago, and nobody of us had nothing to do with slavery, but all they do is use that as their race card. It's a massive race card. It's sickening. It's utterly sickening. I don't care who calls in your shows and tells me I'm wrong. They're full of crap, okay? The Portuguese were the biggest slave traders. The Spanish were number 2, and the English were number 3. Okay, and you don't see these cities on fire in Brazil with the blacks rioting and all that. And yeah, maybe I guess they got some little protest. But these blacks in this country got it made more than any other blacks in the world, and they're trying to burn our cities down. Are you kidding me? They got more freedom in this country than they ever had in Africa. What did they ever have in Africa, Mike? What cities did they ever build in Africa? Except South Africa, Johannesburg. But before that, in the last 300, Mike, can you name a city they built in 300 years?
Nope.
Can anybody?
Not a big one.
Thank you. So nobody can even answer that. No black collars can call in and say that, or no white collars can say that. Because they're lying. They don't know, because there was no cities built until Johannesburg. Some of you, maybe if you go into northern Africa and you have Egypt, you know, you go in the Egyptian where the pyramids are. Yeah, I can understand that. I'm talking about in the continental part of Africa. Even Ivy Coast, you have Monrovia. You had Monrovia was built. But, Mike, every day we're hearing how bad these blacks are being treated. These athletes are being treated so bad. How these people are making, they're multimillionaires. And by the way, Cardi B, most of these black athletes want to marry white women if they can. Let's not kid ourselves. I don't see a lot of these black guys with black women, and there's some beautiful black women. I don't see them with black women. They're all with white women. Good majority of them. So who's kidding who? It's all a big ploy lie by these leftist communist Bolsheviks that are trying to run this country right into ruination. That's exactly what they're doing. And yeah, Trump better start getting more forceful with these people. No way. And the schmucks are behind a lot of this. There's no question about it. They are behind a lot of this nonsense, nincompoop stuff they're pulling. And with the coronavirus. Oh, and by the way, Mike, let's look at Chicago over the weekend. You see how many murders?
51 people shot. I forget how many died.
I think it's up to 12 now. I think they had 12. It was 10 or 12. 12 dead. And, you know, Mike, I looked at the statistics, and I want you to check this out. In the last 8 years, there's been more blacks killed by blacks than in the whole Vietnam War of Americans getting casualties, battle casualties. Yes. There's been more blacks killing each other in an 8-year period in the country, the United States of America, that were Americans, black and white, who went to Vietnam and got shot off by the Viet Cong. Think about that. An 8-year period, that's horrendous. And we're not even talking about the wounds, Mike. This is murder. These are people who are dead. I'm not talking about the how many, maybe is it, maybe 75,000 wounded? Some of them are catastrophic, losing limbs. They've got to be taken care of by the state for the rest of their lives, in the multiple billions of dollars. Nobody's talking about that. These are some of these. Matter of fact, Mike, an 8-year-old kid got murdered in Chicago this weekend.
Yes.
You saw that?
Yeah.
I mean, every day we hear these communist networks talking about Trump and this and that. These people ought to be arrested. These ABC, NBC, and CBS criminals. They're crooks, Mike. They're dirty, low-life crooks. And then they're talking about Trump on the floor. Even what was the guy with the mustache? I can't think of his name right now. John, whatever his name is. The creep that was trying to take Trump down with the book. What was his name? I can't think of his name right now.
Well, Michael Colton or John Bolton?
John Bolton. Yeah, thank you, Michael. John Bolton. John Bolton can't even say he heard Trump say anything about the troops getting. They were stupid to fight.
Well, Jeffrey Goldberg has now admitted the story might be false.
Goldberg's a schmuck. He's a dirty, low-life schmuck. He's a filthy schmuck trying to make a quick buck. That's all he's doing. All these schmucks are trying to make a quick buck and destroy the majority of this country. That's what this is all about. The majority's ruling. It should be ruling, but it ain't ruling. We're like I tell you all the time, Mike, the asphalt's telling the gasoline what to do, and it shouldn't be that way. They should be kicked in their pants, and like Pigs Pelosi, she should be thrown out of office, what she did. That crook. And Mark's right. This coronavirus has got out of hand, man. And Dustin doesn't understand that. It's got out of hand, Dustin. Dustin, I want to hear what Dustin's got to say tomorrow about the Hong Kong flu. And how did that thing end in 14 months? There was never another word talked about the Hong Kong flu in the media back in 68, 69. By 1970, Mike, you never heard of the Hong Kong flu. Nobody knew a damn thing about the Hong Kong flu. Look at the immigration problem we're facing here in this country, Mike. 8 million illegals in California. I mean, it's unbelievable. Nobody's ever talking about that, these leftist communists. They're taking jobs. Look, they're taking great jobs. They're getting federal government jobs, a lot of these illegals, man. Who's kidding who? What are they, all 8 million of these people in the state of California alone working? What are the women doing? The kids? No. We're taking other countries' problems and bringing them in here and creating bigger problems for our country. And I don't see hardly any blacks talking about how the immigration invasion is destroying their way of life. Do you, Mike?
Nope.
That's right. Nobody's talking about how they're being affected by allowing all these illegals to come in there taking jobs away from the Afro-American community. Maybe a few black leaders are, but not. You got that pimp Sharpton, that pimp Jesse Jackson, all these poverty pimps making all this money, and all they do is destroy the black community. And when a beautiful woman like Candace Owens speaks up about the truth, like I told you about Uncle Tom, she is an Uncle Tom to these blacks, and she got more wisdom than all of them put together. What they're doing. And that's why I tell you, Mike, these college campuses are being run ramshod with this leftist agenda. Bolshevik, communism. They're being run ramshod, and these white and black kids don't know a damn thing about their history of their country. They're imbeciles. And their parents allowed it. I don't know if they're mostly all hippies or what the heck happened, but it's disgusting what's happened in the United States. Every
yes, it is.
Unrelenting.
Yeah,
it's unrelenting what they're doing to this country. It's pitiful. It absolutely is pitiful, Mike. And like I said, when you got all these blacks, we don't hear. You know what's funny, Mike? The news networks are not talking about Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York. Well, New York a little bit. They're not telling you how many blacks are getting killed over there on the weekends. It's always Chicago's number one. Okay, but what about number 2, 3, and 4, and 5? How about the murders on the weekends in those cities? It's astronomical. And all we hear is about how bad Trump is, and it's Trump's fault for all these blacks shooting each other. When Obama was in there, it was even worse. When Obama was president for 8 years, the crime rate in Chicago is really off the chain. You can't. There's some areas of Chicago you can't even go in at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You know you're going to get shot, black or white. It's unbelievable. Look at the Magnificent Mile, Mike. They ruined the Magnificent Mile of Chicago. Can you believe it?
Yes, I believe it. They absolutely wrecked it.
Terrible. They wrecked it. They wrecked that whole. I know. I talked to my nephew. They had a good buddy has a shop down there. They're all pulling out. They're all leaving, Mike. They're all leaving. They're all coming to the southern states. They all want to come down to Georgia and Florida. They're heading over to Arizona or Idaho. They're getting out of those cities. Look at New York. Look at Jersey. They're all fleeing out of there. They're fleeing like fleas. The dog just put a flea collar on, and the fleas are jumping off. It's unbelievable what's going on. It really is, but I just had to vent a little bit, Mike, because, I hear this Cardi B filthy creature talking about Candace Owens, and she's making money. People are paying to hear her crappy music. You got to be kidding me, man, that filthy. They should arrest her. Trump should have her arrested for starting a hate riot, like Soros. They're hateful, demonic beings. That's who they are. They're demonic, Mike. That's George Soros is creating all these problems. Mike, they're paying these people $1,800 to go protest, man.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about that. $1,800? Shoot, if Trump gave me $1,800, I'll put stickers on every car I could. Trump stickers. Pay me $1,800. I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on here. Paying these criminals, destroy our cities, and paying them to go protest and riot and all this, and talk down white people like the white people are all this bad. Give me a break. I'm fed up with it. I really am, Mike. It's disgusting. They give you these funny looks, and you go to a store now. It's disgusting what's happening here.
Yes.
Disgusting. It really is. It's utterly disgusting how whites are being treated in this country. We gave them more opportunities than any other culture on history. Who's kidding who here? You need to stop this nonsense. Look, like I said, Mike, who was the biggest slave traders of all? It was Portugal. Is Lisbon, Portugal?
Well, what about what's going on in Africa today, where you still have slave markets in many African countries with Africans being bought and sold? Why isn't Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesting that which is happening today? Why this obsession with what happened 200 years ago?
That's another great point, Mike. Look at Boko Haram. How they kill every day. They're killing 50, 60, 100 people over in Africa, blacks killing each other in Africa. Well, Boko Haram and the religious end of it. We're not just talking about into slavery. I mean, it's crazy. But all we hear about this leftist ABC, NBC, and CBS criminal networks are being run by minority groups, not majority groups. I can't believe white Christian males are going to allow those major networks to put out the spew and this filthy hate against white people. And if that's the case, they should leave the country they hate it. Go to Canada, you creeps.
Okay, Tom, we got to go. We got to take a break for commercials. We got more phone calls when we get back. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program today. Let's see if we can fit some more phone calls in. Mark in Florida, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, thanks for letting me in. I want to try a funny and then I get a serious. But I went to my doctor, Johnny Rivers, and I told him my symptoms was I want to kiss her, but she's way too tall. He diagnosed me with a rocking pneumonia and the boogie woogie flu.
Okay.
That's a song, Johnny Rivers.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
But to get serious, and this is especially like to direct this to Dustin. Hal Anthony has a blog titled Behind the Woodshed, and he attacks the coronavirus on the legal and lawful side of it. And how can it be enforced? Who has a duty to enforce it? And under what authority can anything be done about it? And who can be forced to dance, sing, jump up and down, wear masks? And that's where I go to my source as far as who can enforce it, whether it's real or not. Who has the authority to lock you down? And where did they get it from? And that's my concern with this virus thing. It's not whether I get sick or not. So I get sick, so I get cancer. Are you going to arrest me for getting cancer? Are you going to lock me down? Who are you? Not you, Mike, but who are they, whoever they are, to tell me where I can and cannot go and what I can and cannot wear and whether I'm allowed or not allowed to get sick? And I hope you would look up Hal Anthony. The blog is Behind the Woodshed. This is a well-studied man. And that's all I got. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking the call. I wanted to call about coronavirus. Real quick on Tom's call, good call. One thing about economics and riots and race relations, I was just thinking, because I'm actually driving through Detroit today, and I was thinking, this used to be one of the most beautiful cities in America, and they had these huge race riots. And I'm just wondering, when those riots took place, the blacks rioting probably had the highest standard of living of any blacks in the world, if you think about it. Detroit at that time in the 60s, those were good jobs, manufacturing jobs, and it's just interesting how, you don't always have to be suffering, I guess, to have a riot. It's just kind of more.
Well, you just have to see people around you that you perceive as having more than you do and whom you perceive as having more than you do due to an unfair advantage.
That's a good point, yep. And then having that, I guess, egged on by kind of communist agitators or whoever at the time. I know there's a Harvard professor, Norm Iglesias or something, that was radical that organized some of that stuff. But real quick on coronavirus, I took it seriously at first.
Actually, Dan, I got to let you go. This is the end of the program here. Stay tuned for John Stedmiller. John will have Harley Schlanger on the next hour and Steve Elkins in the second hour. Please spread the word of RBN, spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. We need new equipment. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.